With a rich cultural history and itself becoming a democracy in the 1990s, the Czech Republic and Taiwan share some similarities. However, lesser known are their defense and security ties which are now strengthening amidst increasing pressure from Beijing. So we are here in Prague to find out just where these two countries stand. In this episode, we'll be hearing from Czech Senator Pavel Fischer, who has been visiting Taiwan for years and works to bring the Czech Republic and Taiwan closer on matters of security and economy. Senator, thank you very much for your time today. I want to start off asking, on a score of about 1 to 10, where are Czech and Taiwan ties right now?
8.
That's good. That's a good score.
That's a good score, but I think that on the Czech side, for instance, we can do more. We can be more bold. And I think that even though the leaving government was my government, I was fighting for it and I was voting for it, I think that they could do much more. And this is something that now, when the new government comes, we as the Senate have to have a look for and check where we can do more and provide the necessary political backing.
Last year, former President Tsai was in Prague, and this year, recently, she was in Dresden, where we see a lot of semiconductor investment from Taiwan. Do you think that's a model that the Czech Republic can copy, or even something that it can benefit from right now?
Definitely, Czech Republic can benefit from the forthcoming huge amount of investment in Dresden, because if you look at the map, this is very close from Prague. This is just a matter of several hours by car or by train, and the whole region between Prague and Dresden can have a huge potential for future development in terms of cooperation, in terms of companies providing services for those who come to invest, who come to work here. And this is exactly the force of this strategic TSMC investment in Dresden. This is first a huge, bold step, and many small steps around will follow. And this is also in our own interest to provide the honest conditions that our friends and partners from Taiwan can establish good conditions. And you know, in European Union, borders are not so important. So it is really very important that we have direct flight from Taipei to Prague right now, and that businessmen can land in Prague and have some support also on the Czech side for the huge potential that will now stem from this Dresden project.
You travel to Taiwan quite frequently. Can you talk a little bit about what you're hearing when you travel to Taiwan, what Taiwan's legislators are talking to you about?
At the end of the day, the challenges that we see in both countries, I mean Czech Republic and Taiwan, are very similar. We speak about energy supply and robust energy supply need. We speak about securizing supply chains. We speak about resilience of our societies. And I think that this Russian aggression against Ukraine brought a huge wake-up call to us in Europe, but I think that more globally, that winning the war, it is not only about military, but also the whole society approach. And the nexus between military and, for instance, civilian secure fighters, firefighters and others, this nexus is extremely important in managing the threats of the war. And this is something that we have to study closely and also, for instance, change our legislation. And I think that here the battlefield in Ukraine is an excellent, unfortunately, excellent opportunity to all of us to understand how the old methods of war are combined with the latest technological solutions, be it on the sensors or others. And I think that here there is something to speak about. And for instance, in our Committee for Foreign Relations, Security and Defense, we try to understand what kind of challenge the threat of this technological war, also with traditional weaponry, provides to us who would like to help Ukraine and also defend our democracy.
Are there any specifics that you can go into about sharing maybe on civilian resilience between the Czech Republic and Taiwan?
Yes, and with my counterparts in the Legislative Yuan, we exchange on this oftentimes. How, for instance, having this strategic dependency on energy supplies from outside invites us to rethink also the potential of securing the supply of energy in times of crisis, be it not only for days, but for months and for a longer time. This is something that our country succeeded to do with the close cooperation within European Union, because we succeeded to change our more than 90% dependency on Russian oil and gas to something which is much different as picture. Today we have also solutions for our nuclear fuel, for our nuclear power plants, and before we were 100% dependent on Russia. So this is something that we succeeded to deal with, and I have to say that the Czech government, which is now leaving, succeeded here with the best outcomes possible.
Earlier you said that the Czech-Taiwan ties, you gave it a score of 8. If we're looking at the European Union overall, how would you score the relations between Taiwan and the European Union?
I would say this is very little, because many countries in Europe prefer to listen to the red lines of Beijing, and they do not realize, by repeating the red lines of PRC, that they didn't elaborate on their own red lines. And by doing this, they spread the disinformation or distortion of reality beyond Chinese borders. And this is something that we have to be attentive about. What are our own red lines? This is probably the task we have to work on. Where are our limits where we are ready to have a dialogue, and beyond we do not accept this dialogue? And unfortunately, in European Union, in many issues we have unanimity vote. And here some countries are so dependent on Chinese provided solutions that the road is simply too long before reaching a consensus.
I want to pivot a bit from the economic side to the battlefield side. We talked a bit about Ukraine, but right now in the past weeks we have seen offers between Russia and the United States where the peace proposals have chopped up Ukraine's map, and Ukraine has rejected these peace proposals. In the spectrum of looking at this negotiated battlefield for an end of the war, what implications do you think there are for countries like Taiwan?
What was for me the most shocking in the first draft of this peace plan that we studied 10 days ago was the total absence of the rule of law, of the recognition that there is an aggressor, that there are victims of crimes for which we have universal jurisdiction, and we are obliged as countries and as citizens to deal with these crimes unless the perpetrators are followed by justice. And this absence of justice is for me maybe even more dangerous globally than speaking about some temporary occupation of some parts of the territory. Because if we read the UN Charter, we see that Russia is in total disrespect for the principle of settling conflicts by negotiation. And if we see that Russia is backed by PRC in this, also within the UN, We have to read this UN Charter carefully, and we will discover that there is, for instance, impossibility to threat others by the use of force. And then, if you listen to Beijing threatening Taiwan by the use of force, we see that there is also a breach of UN Charter and principles. So I think that we have to be extremely attentive to this, because the breach by Russia, the disrespect by Russia of the United Nations principles, supported or with the complicity of Beijing, might be tomorrow the other way around, if Beijing would like to use the force and the threat, realize the threat against Taiwan. This is so serious that I think that even with the first draft of any peace or truce solution, we have to speak about justice. This is a question of humanity. And this is the reason why I was so puzzled by the text.
It sounds like we're almost on the precipice of foregoing not only the rules-based order, but an international law that focused on justice that followed the Second World War, where that could be gone tomorrow if we go forward with these kinds of treaties and forego all of that language.
The rule of law is a principle which has a continuity from our internal legal system or constitution, be it Czech Republic, for instance, and there is a continuity to the international law and vice versa. So if we start to disrespect the rule-based order, we are putting in danger our own domestic order and constitution framework. And for this reason, we have to be extremely cautious. And this is the reason why we have to realize that the principle of sovereignty based on self-determinance of citizens and of people is something that we have to cherish and not to put aside. And I fear that we have here a huge potential for delivering better, we as politicians, but also as states.
I want to end on a slightly more positive note. You travel to Taiwan frequently. I want to ask, do you have any plans to travel to Taiwan in 2026?
My dream is to come back and to not to come with my suits and ties, but to come as a tourist and have a hike. And with my wife, we love mountains, and we know how beautiful the landscape in your country is. And we have heard that this is just an amazing experience for everyone who does this, because also the meeting with local people is something that which we are extremely interested in. So I hope that one day I will have the opportunity to do so, but for the time being, if you are elected as legislator, you know that the time is very short and you should be focused. And I think that the international political agenda is so dense that we should also deliver on time, and this is for me a challenge.
Well, Senator, you'd be very welcome in Taiwan. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching this episode of Zoom In, Zoom Out from Prague. For more stories covering Taiwan's defense and security, you can download the TaiwanPlus app or follow us on social media. Until next time.